It's time to do the wiring on this bike. Let's start out with the rear lights first. This is just a reference paper that we're going to send with the kits. This says the 750 Honda, but you're going to get a paper like that that will just reference all these things that I'm going to tell you. So you'll get that and refer to that. And then also on the crimping and the heat shrink on these connectors, we give you another little reference sheet to kind of show you how that's done. So kind of shows you where to crimp the connectors and how to do the heat shrink. Hopefully the best way is with a heat gun, but you can use a cigarette lighter too if you're really careful. So okay, and then I'm going to show you a couple of things on these signal lights first. Okay, now if you'll notice, there's a little slot right on the bottom here. You just put a screwdriver on that and twist it, and the lens will pop off. And then you can twist the light out. These are just standard 1157 bulbs. They're dual filament, so that you can get them anywhere. That's what's really nice about these lights. And then we also, in the kit, we will send you the amber lenses. In case you live in Australia or somewhere where you can't run dual filament, they just can be signals only, then you'll have to run the amber lens. So we'll send that with the kit. And then also we do have smoked lenses. Just contact us before you order the kit and we can send you these. We'll send them free of charge. Okay, go ahead and cut your wires from the lights to 18 inches long, and we'll have a metric measurement there for you too on your reference paper. And then what we're going to do, we're going to strip the insulation off here, and we're going to install these male connectors, just like that on that reference sheet. Now the way you get this insulation off, is you take a little knife and just slit that insulation, and then you can peel it back, and that exposes the three wires. There should be a black, a blue, and a purple. Oh, okay, now if you live in a country where you can't run the dual filament lights and you're going to run the amber lenses, then you won't use the blue wire. You're just going to use the black and the purple. The black is the ground and the purple is the flashing light. Okay, I had you keep the wires from the rear fender, if you'll remember that. So hopefully you kept these wires. Now what we can do is we can modify these to make them work on the new lights. So go ahead and take the insulation off the outside of these wires. There's just a piece of tape there. Go ahead and take that off and then pull that off the end of these wires, and that'll give you all the individual colors. There should be an orange, a plain green, a light blue, a brown, and a yellow with, or a green with yellow stripes. Now, if your bike is a Spirit, I noticed the Spirit, there was about 2 or 3 of the green. We're just going to use one. So you want to grab the fattest wire in the solid green that you have. We just need one of each color. Now you'll pull the orange, the light blue, and the green with the yellow stripe. That's the most important one to remember too, because the solid green isn't the same. So the green with yellow stripe. What we'll do, we're going to cut all 3 of those to 12 inches long. And then we're going to install the male ends on the wires. These are the stock Honda ends here. And then make sure when you crimp these that you give them a real good crimp. We sell this really cheapy crimper on our website, but it really does do a good job if we use the proper little gauge thing in there. And we give you the instructions on there. But the main thing is to give these a real good crimp and pull them. Make sure that they don't come off. Pull really hard because you don't want these to come off later. You can refer to the instructions on this one too. Now we're going to use the leftover brown wire and green wire, solid green, out of your wires that came out of the bike. These are the stock ends here. What we're going to do, we're going to make 2 3-way connectors. We're going to go brown to blue and green to black. This is the ground and this is the keyed power. Now what you want to do is you want to go ahead and we supply all this stuff in the kit. This is a large butt splicer here. So what I did is I took the 3 blue wires and I twisted them together and I slid them into the butt splicer and crimped it right there. Okay, now when we do the brown wire that goes in the other end, go ahead and bend that wire. This is pretty small for this butt connector. So what I do, I bend that over like that. That way it's a little bulkier, and then it'll slide into the butt splicer a little tighter, and then we'll crimp that end. So go ahead and do that, and then after you do that, go ahead and put the ends on, And we give you the lengths on all this stuff on your reference sheet. So make sure you get real good crimps. There's one that's shorter, and these two are the same length. You can slide the heat shrink over when you're finished. If you have the ends here that have the little plastic coating, just wet the inside a little bit and it'll slide over that. And then you can heat shrink this after you get finished. This is a nice, really nice heat shrink. It has an adhesive on the inside. So say even one of these crimps wasn't perfect, this will really hold those wires together. So make those two three-way connectors just like that, and then I think we're ready to install these lights into the bike. Now let's prep the tail light so we can install it. What I want you to do is we give you two pieces of 3-inch long heat shrink. Go ahead and heat shrink these to the braided wires that come out of the back of the light. And then we're going to go ahead and install the ground wire next. Now this next step is really important because we got to make sure that we get the ground wire coming out the right side of the light here. So you'll notice I have the license plate light here on the bottom. It's facing toward me. And then I'm going to put the ground wire on this screw right here. You can leave it loose, it doesn't have to be tight, but we'll go ahead and put that on there. That's the wire that has that little ring connector fastened to one end. So go ahead and let's just install that, and then we're going to heat shrink these wires all together. There again, it's important that the license plate is down and the wire comes out the left side. I slid the 14-inch long big heat shrink over these all three wires. If you'll notice there, I left this little bit of a gap right here. You don't have to get the heat shrink too close here because you want to be able to manipulate this just a little bit once you put it on the license plate bracket. So slide that over the wires, and then we're going to heat shrink this onto the wires here. It's going to take a minute, but be patient. Okay, I went ahead and heat shrink these wires. And now go ahead and very carefully put on the male connectors on all three of these. There's a green braided, a black braided, and a black plastic. I'm going to have you mark this braided wire right here real quick because maybe we'll even send you some blue tape in your kit. That way we know that that plugs into the blue wires in the bike. Male connectors. Okay, all this stuff's ready to mount in the bike. Refer to the seat mount in the seat mount kit. We're going to have to install these in that section first, and then we'll be able to run all these wires. Oh, one final note too. If you did get the fender mount taillight, then we've done all this wiring ahead of time for you on that one. I wanted to show you how the taillight mounts to the bracket. This might be easier to do on a bench before you put it together, but you can do it either way. But it's much easier to show you off the bike with these non-powder coated brackets. So anyway, this is the taillight. Now if you'll notice, the way we designed all this stuff is you can take all this stuff off and not disrupt the wires on your light. It's kind of cool because they have slots that allow you to do that. So the way this works is here's your taillight bracket, the steel bracket, and the wires go through this hole, wire tied here, and then they get wire tied here. That makes them tuck in really nice, so when it's mounted on the bike you don't see it much. Okay, and then the taillight mounts there first the aluminum license plate bracket mounts on the steel bracket, and then the taillight mounts over that. So you can see how that goes together there. Steel, aluminum bracket, and then the taillight. And if you'll notice there, I've got the screws here. Now make sure, this is really important, make sure that ground wire that you put on with the ring connector makes contact with that screw. That's really important because the taillight itself has to be grounded. So that's how that works. And go ahead and snug these up. Maybe hold that wire as you tighten that, make sure it doesn't twist. Anyway, that's how it goes. Let's go ahead and hook these wires up. Okay, now's the time to hook up these lights. Okay, you'll have to refer to the first part of the seat mount kit in order to see how to mount these. So I've got them mounted to the bike, so refer to that first. We'll mount these to the bike, and then I explained this tail mount to you earlier, so we'll mount that. That's kind of part of the same unit on this side. Unless you have the fender mount light, then you won't have the tail light here, just this bracket. Then this other side, same thing, we've got that mounted. You don't have to have these super tight. And then what we want to do before we get started, we want to remove this relay. This is it here. And it's mounted to this kind of funny shaped little bracket right here. We're going to have to disconnect that or just slide it off the little rubber mount. It has a little tab right here. We need to disconnect that because we're going to end up tucking that down in there in a little bit because that can't be there for the seat pan. And then the other thing is on the Spirit models, there's some little clips right here. They look like this, like little wire clips. They were on right here and over here. What I did, I just took them and bent them back and forth a little bit, and then they popped off. So go ahead and remove those on the Spirit models. If you'll notice, I ran the right side signal light wires under this bar right here. Kind of right next to the shop, down the frame, and under this wire, or this bar right here. So we're going to run those like that. And then on this side, same thing. We'll run the tail light and the signal light wires under this bar. Here's the tail light wires. There's the signal light wires. So we'll run those under the bar also. Now we can start hooking this stuff up. Let's start first with plugging in the hot wires. This is the blue wires here on the end, and they plug into the brown wire on the bike, so brown to brown, and then the ground wires, and that's the green to green. So these are the two three-way connectors. We're going to do those first. Plug those in, and then we'll plug these into the signal lights. Okay, we're going to take the short wire from the two three-way connectors, and we're going to plug them into this right signal light. So it's blue to blue and black to black. That'll leave the purple wire left over. Make sure when you plug all this stuff in, you push them really hard because some of these are a little tight. You want to make sure all the connections are plugged in really tight. You may even use pliers on these to get down in there, but make sure all this stuff's plugged in really tight. Okay, now I plugged the black wires, the black vinyl wires coming out of the bike, to the black wires on the bike here. So it's blue to blue, black to black, that's the signal light, and then the vinyl black wire from the tail light to the vinyl wire here. What that'll leave over is the purple wire on the signal light, and then the two braided wires. We'll do those in just a minute here. We don't want to handle these. We don't do anything with the braided wires yet. These are the braided ones. Okay, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this just to clarify it with you. Okay, so the black wire, the black braided wire coming out of the tail light, I'm going to put a piece of tape on there that says blue, because that one will plug into the remaining blue wire from that three-way connector. So I'm going to plug that in. Try to keep these wires kind of straight and neat and tidy as you plug these in. Push that really hard. Make sure they're kind of neat and tidy. So all that's remaining are the purple wires and the green wire from the tail light. Now we can go ahead and plug these three remaining wires into the motorcycle. There's the solid orange, the green with yellow stripe, and then the light blue. So I'm going to do the green with yellow stripe first. That kind of matches the green braided wire coming from the tail light. So let's go ahead and plug that one in. That's your brake light. So go ahead and plug that one in first. Okay, then all that leaves is just the two colored wires, the blue and the orange. These are the signal light wires that will go to the purple. I want to make sure I get the one on the right side. If not, you can just switch them. The last two wires to plug in are the light blue, and that goes to the purple wire on the right signal light. And then the orange wire plugs into the purple wire on the left signal light. So that pretty much does it. We've got everything plugged in. There again, refer to the written sheet. We're going to have a sheet of paper that shows these two. Make it a little more easy for you. I'm going to go ahead and tuck all these wires in now, and we're just about finished. You might want to go ahead and turn the key on and just try the lights and make sure they all work. Oh, a note on the customers that we have in Australia and the places where you cannot run running lights, you just won't use the blue wires coming out, the two blue wires coming out of the three-way connector. Those won't be necessary. You'll just deal with the black and the purple wires. So just don't worry about the blue wires. In fact, you don't even really need them. Or maybe once you get the bike passed, and then later on if they change the laws, you can plug them in. It would sure be nice because it's a lot safer to have more light on your bike. I've double checked all my wires, make sure all the connections are really solid. And then what I've done is I've kind of wrapped these around both directions. You can kind of work with it a little bit, and I put wire ties here around the frame rail. to hold those wires tight so they don't, you know, look nice and neat, tidy back in here. And then a wire tie here. You want to kind of keep these all clear of the air box too, because you're going to have to take this air box eventually out and replace the filter. So what I've done is I've kind of wire tied everything in the bike so this lift still lifts up and gets out of the way. And you don't want to block that with a bunch of tape or something. So tuck that in there. Then this is that wire that's on the bike. Hopefully that's still there. You can kind of use that too to kind of hold all the wires right down in that area. The main thing is this section right here, because when we put our seat pan on, we don't want to get a wire in between the seat pan and it might cut it or wear through. So make sure all this stuff's really neat and tidy, and double check everything. And refer to the printed sheets again about plugging all these wires in. And there you have it. Gosh, it looks great.